Hi, everyone. Welcome to the VRAR Bytes podcast, our weekly show featuring the movers and shakers in Central Florida. Now, today is a special VRAR Bytes podcast, as my guest is Captain Tim Hill, who's the commander of the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division here in Orlando. Now, what makes this special is after nearly 30 years of military service, Captain Hill is retiring from the US Navy. So I have the honor and privilege of conducting one of the last interviews before he sails off into the next chapter of his career. Now, Captain Hill started his Navy career in 1988 as a midshipman at the US Naval Academy. And during his career, he's had many exciting and important assignments, both as an aviator and as a leader. Now, he's accumulated over 3,200 flight hours in 32 different aircraft models and has logged nearly 750 carrier landings. Now, he was also heavily involved in the F35 Joint Strike Fighter program over a number of years. Now, most of us know Captain Hill as the commander of NAWCTSD here in Orlando, where he served for 5 years, 2 of those as the executive officer and 3 of those as the commander. So, Captain Hill, thank you very much for joining us today, and congratulations on your upcoming retirement.
Hey, John, thanks for having me today. Really appreciate the opportunity to engage with the community here, and absolutely appreciate what the AR/VR Association does, not just here in Central Florida, but across the ecosystem of the XR community. Hey, before we jump too far into questions and stuff, I do want to talk for those that aren't familiar with NAWCTSD a little bit about what we are and what we do. So we have roughly 3,200 people around the globe, not just here in Orlando, and Pax River, but around the world at a bunch of different sites that we conduct fleet training at. And about half of those folks are out at those sites, and the other half are sprinkled here between Orlando and our parent command up in Pax River, Maryland. And fundamentally focusing on the science of learning and how humans work. We don't necessarily build the tools that we take into war. We build the people that take those tools into war and make those folks better at what they do. The tech that we use, whether it's a high fidelity simulator, whether it's a piece of extended reality kit or some software or gaming piece, is just a tool by which we make those humans better. So we do that through those folks that are here, as I mentioned, and around the world. And generally speaking, bringing in about $1.6 billion, $1.5 billion every given year to spend out around the industry partners and stuff in pursuit of making the people better. As I mentioned there. So once again, I'd like to just say how proud I am of that team that does that, and how proud I am of the collaboration we have with all of our industry partners in making that happen all the time.
Excellent. So, can you comment about XR technology in the Navy's future? Is this going to be a critical technology or something that's nice to have? How do you see it?
Yeah, I think it already is becoming a critical technology. I think there's certainly things that we're seeing now across the time that I've been here. I've watched it go from very limited solution sets. I think a lot of folks in the community are familiar with our MERTS 3D product. That's a 3D on 2D kind of product that is something we were using for very limited applications at that point. And we started throwing some prototypes out in the field. We're very highly involved with the Air Force on their pilot training next, which is now turning into naval aviation training next as well. And you see those VR simulators in those cases very much becoming part of the syllabus and very much a critical thing. And now we're starting to see folks use both VR and AR in programs of record. So I think it's starting to find its niche in our community, and it certainly is there in a way that can help us get more reps and sets for our war fighters out there.
Right. So now, is there anything specific or anything that you're especially proud of during your tenure at NAWCTSD?
Yeah, there's so many things, John. With 5 years on deck, there's a lot of things I could talk about, but I'm gonna kind of walk you through a couple here. I think fundamentally, we laid out this thing we call the strike plan, which is our long range, strategic plan for the command. That was very early in my time as the XO, working with some of the folks that had been here for a long time. And then in that framework, that really talked about our ability to be an agile organization and operate, in a world of uncertainty, in a world that's changing very rapidly. The ability to then grab onto opportunities and do things with those, that's really been something very special to me. So everything from facilities overhauls to scaling the command up 30% in terms of our budget authority and 20% in terms of people, and then reorganizing the command along with the rest of Nav Air. Those have been pretty special things. But the thing I think I'd have to hold up as the thing I'm most proud of is the Central Florida Tech Grove, and our new innovating hub there here in the research park. And the reason why I hold it up is because I think it's going to be the thing that is going to be a generational type impact. I think it's really facilitating Team Orlando 2.0, as we call it, which is really about deepening that existing ecosystem that we have across Team Orlando, getting people more connected at a grassroots organic level. And then the other part that Tech Grove is there for is widening the ecosystem and bringing in new players, folks, those non-traditional suppliers that we talk about so much in the DoD space today now, in terms of how we really get to innovate at a pace that will help us outpace our adversaries.
Yeah, I interviewed Kevin the other day, and we went kind of deeper into the Tech Grove, and that's absolutely something that's really needed in this community. To be able to give non-traditional organizations, small businesses, et cetera, the opportunity to come together and to collaborate and to try stuff outside of that secure firewall. That's always the difficulty that we have, is getting behind that firewall.
Yeah, and I think that part is a big part of it. And I think the other part we'll see is that there's a mindset that comes with that in terms of the acquisition vehicles we use. And I know we've seen some activity here from PEO STRI and the Army commands as it relates to other transaction authorities. And we see this as kind of our place where we're going to be probably more likely to use some of those non-FAR based agreements to move a little faster and try things out there.
So a lot of people see, they know about PEO STRI, they know about PM Traces and NAWCTSD. But what a lot of people don't know is that you're actually doing a lot of internal development in your labs right here in Orlando. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, John. That's part of what's neat about us. So NAWCTSD is a federal lab. We qualify for that. And so as a part of that, we do internal science and technology and research and development work, much like STTC does here for the Army, but just on a different scale and internal to our own organization. The neat thing about that is we have a couple of pretty cool projects. I mean, I think a lot of folks at this point have seen MERTS 3D. That's one of those type of products that developed out of here. We're doing a lot of different products in the LVC, the live virtual and constructive world as well. But the one I'll talk about here that I think is of interest to your audience, given the subject matter here, is one that we call Flight Deck Refresher Training Expansion Packs. Courtney McNamara is the lead for that. And that's a long-standing and ongoing project that's been kind of all over the map in terms of doing things in the aircraft carrier training environment. It's a game-based training environment, but it puts you in different positions around the ship based on what you need to train in. And the really cool thing to me is that this project has always shown me exactly what we do with science of learning, in that not everything in this project, if depending on what station I'm in, not everything's going to be augmented reality or mixed reality or virtual reality. There's a mix of different modalities used based on which station you're at, based on what you need to do. So for instance, if you're the air boss, the individual that's up in the tower on the carrier overlooking all the flight ops and such, you're in a very much a 3D on 2D sort of environment. Several large screen televisions that are there to give us the environment and kind of give you the window view, if you will, and lots of other touch screen, smaller displays that mimic other screens and other displays that are there on the ship. And then also some physical hardware such as microphones and other types of handsets and such, that allows us to really recreate that environment that the air boss is in. But differently, if you're the landing signal operator or officer, or the catapult launch officer, you're going to be in virtual reality because we want you to be more immersed. That augmented, the hands-on portion isn't as important there, and we can certainly create that environment in the virtual reality kind of setup. And so, really good opportunity to see how different types of XR can be used for different training objectives. And we keep building onto that project. It first started as the Air Boss trainer and the trainer for the catapult and the resting gear personnel. It's now expanded into the landing signal officer and is in use by the landing signal officer school for the Navy. And who knows where it'll go next, because now that you have the environment, building on and building out of the parts of that environment are pretty easy.
You know, you just said something that is especially near and dear to, to my heart, is the fact that you've got to build all this content, right? That there's a massive investment in building these environments and content, and the ability to take that and then put it onto different types of devices, right, is critical, and not having to rebuild that content, but rather just adapt it for those devices, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's I saw, I don't know if you've seen the new 3D tablets, but Leah has come out with these 3D tablets, and that's a whole new other area that for folks that can't go into VR, but you still need the 3D capability. So this technology is going to continue to change rapidly. But I think you said at the core of it, it's having that ability to prototype, to try things, to see what works without having to really go back and rebuild all that content every time.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that too is understanding, what the strengths and weaknesses of each type of delivery device or modality is, and really understanding, that balance between what are your training objectives and what delivery method is going to give it to you the best. I think there's a big part that you have to stay true to, because I think as new delivery methods come out, everybody kind of gravitates to it, the squirrel effect, if you will, this shiny object and such. And that might not be the best way to do that particular training task that's out there. And I think we just have to be very objective about that, and not try to, fit everything into one paradigm.
Well, and I'm hoping that with the Tech Grove, that becomes a place that we can try these new things and get a lot of people in there and get the feedback and come to a decision quicker for the Navy, whether this is the right path to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for us and the other services, and I'd probably you made me think about it when you just said that, John, that I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the proximity of the Tech Grove to the CFT's technology integration facility, what they call their TIF. Those are right across the hallway from each other in partnership for. They're very different in terms of what they're networked to, but between the two, we'll have all the different training networks from all the services in there. And we envision an absolute synergy between those two spaces, where Tech Grove kind of looks at some of the earlier tech, kind of emerging tech, if you will, and TIF kind of looks more at things that are getting ready to go out to the field to bring in some, hardcore users and do, really hardcore user evals before the tech fields. So you can almost think about this progression of things from the Tech Grove into the TIF to some degree out there. And then for the Navy side, it would most likely be from the Tech Grove and into our own labs here on the base. So pretty neat to think about that synergy.
A lot of folks that aren't involved in the military, or maybe even those that are involved, are very familiar with the military. We have something really special here in this community. The fact that you've got all these four different, well, it's actually more than four service agencies, because now we have the Department of Homeland Security and other folks coming in. To really be able to collaborate, I think that's really unique to this ecosystem.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I can't find anywhere else where we have all the services, and to your point, other DoD and other departmental agencies all located together with kind of the similar focus there that just enables that deck plate level collaboration. I always, tell this story about when Rob Matthews first told me about this, and I called him out a little bit on it. This was earlier in my time as the XO, and he actually came back and said, "I'm glad you called me out on that, because it shows me that we've succeeded in building this notion that we are by definition a collaborator, and that you now hold this bar that's way up here on what that means." And how organic it should be. And so the ability to kind of drive that further down the road and take it over from some of those, plank holders like Rob Matthews and others is pretty special to me.
Okay. All right. So here's another question. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing adoption of XR?
Yeah, so there's maybe two that I'll bucket it into, John. And the first one will be what you mentioned a second ago, content development. I think that the time it takes and the expense that it takes to build content is a bit of a barrier right now. And I think what we really want to get to is a place where our independent users can build content very rapidly, very intuitively, in some way have that vetted, and then make that available. So it's almost the crowdsourcing model, if you will. I think if we could get there, that'd be a very good thing for us. And then the other thing, particularly in the Navy, in a world where we deploy on ships and ships don't have a lot of bandwidth from I'll talk a little bit about infrastructure as well. And I think there's two bits of infrastructure that come to play. One is what I mentioned there in terms of bandwidth, and that's whether you're talking about a shore installation or being afloat, and building out the infrastructure to allow us to have some of the throughput that we need to move the types of data that we need to really have effective real-time training environments. And there's certainly on-prem kind of solutions and stuff like that we can use to offset that a little bit. But really, the Navy's working on building out that infrastructure right now. And today, that's a bit of a barrier to these types of technologies. The other part I'll tell you is, becoming a barrier, I think, mainly because we want to raise the bar with what we're doing, is our ability to store and format the data that goes along with the training that goes there. So the whole notion of bringing in XR type technologies is to give, like I said before, more reps and sets to our operators in a more immersive environment. What goes with that is performance measurement and being able to grab all that data that heretofore has been left on the cutting room floor and do something with it. Provide feedback to an individual operator, provide feedback up the chain of command about how operators are doing and how ready we are to fight and such. And that data infrastructure, the right data lakes and that sort of thing for the training data is something that today is a little bit of a barrier to really just taking off at an exponential type of profile.
Very good point. So another question: who in the VRAR community inspires you, or who do you go to find out what's happening?
Yeah, so I think I've always got to be careful about naming names as a government guy, but I think certainly the community we have here inside of the VRARA has been great for that. I absolutely applaud, because you bring those experts out that might not otherwise get some sunlight on them. I think the Orlando Tech Council has helped out a lot for me individually in terms of getting to know and have some connections for both me and our organization with some non-traditional folks. The Florida High Tech Corridor is good for that as well. And then I will name one name because he's a little bit out of our space. You and I met him at the same time at the Florida Simulation Summit a couple of years ago. Alan Smithson's a guy that I keep pretty good track on, just because he's plugged in on the commercial side to kind of help me, at least, and I think a lot of others in the DoD space, kind of wrap our heads around where things are headed outside of DoD.
Excellent. Yeah, Alan is continuing to be a thought leader and an innovator, and same here. I follow him and hoping that he'll get down here this year for ITSEC. We can meet up in person again.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then last question. What would you like to see from the VRAR Association, either more of or something new?
So like I alluded to a second ago, John, I think a lot of what you're doing is exactly what I think you're doing all the right things. I think the creation of the sense of community and the, I'll give the head nod out. If I recall correctly, the VRARA here in Central Florida was the first organization to do an event out of the Tech Grove back as a virtual event back just after ITSEC. And doing that and joining with Team Orlando in that way, thank you so much. That is very helpful for us. I think anything that the community can do to drive standards that will help us make that content creation that much easier and in particular to get to that nirvana that I talked about, where users can self-create content very easily and very rapidly. I think those are kind of maybe North Stars that I would set out there for the VRARA.
Great feedback. Appreciate that. Okay, now I'm sure the audience is interested to know, what plans that you have post retirement, and let's put that into A, what are you looking forward to, and B, are you planning to continue to support the government or go a different direction?
Yeah, so in regards to the first question, I'm really looking forward to being on the sidelines and seeing some of the things that we've started both before my time here and in my time here at NAWCTSD take off and continue to grow. As I mentioned, in particular, tech growth, just to see that thing flourish. Personally, I'm looking forward to a little time off. I'm not going to lie. I've got a couple of months planned to just kind of do nothing. I'm certainly talking to a lot of folks about a lot of different opportunities, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to, continue to grow myself professionally while still impacting the DoD mission. That said, certainly interested in and have been talking to some folks about some opportunities that aren't just DoD centric, and that's pretty enthralling to me. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting even more involved with the Central Florida community here.
Okay, so it sounds like you might be staying around Central Florida.
Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, sir, first of all, thank you very much for your service and your commitment to our country. I'm sure everyone that's watching this, has really been inspired by you, and everyone I talked to in the community has always said nothing but positive things about you and your leadership. And so thank you very much. And we'll see you around Central Florida then.
Thanks once again for the opportunity, John. And thanks again to all the men and women here at NAWCTSD across Team Orlando and all of our industry partners that have made this tour here, and more importantly, the Navy's Warriors, a success based on what we've all done together. Appreciate that.
All right. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.